Hello everyone and welcome to Project Ozone Reloaded Titan Mode. This is episode 33. I am in Slider's Labyrinth and I have actually already killed the three mini bosses in this dungeon. They were actually pretty close to the door. If you get lucky, they are. And by the door, I mean this door in front of me, which is the door to the main boss, the one we need to kill for a quest. Although, if this climbing spiral staircase here up near the top of it is actually the entry and exit point into the dungeon. I'm hoping not to use the regular exit point because I've gotten stuck in it and died before because it can like leave you sort of jammed up in an area with some rock that even if you have time, you can't break it. It's unbreakable. Okay, so let me explain just a little bit about this boss while I pull up the quest book. This is a boss that my sword isn't going to help me on. And the reason is because it it can only be hurt by a pickaxe. So, the quest is this one right here, Labyrinth. It says it unlocks one quest elsewhere. I have no idea what it might unlock. But I've killed the Labyrinth Eye, the Sentry Garden, and the Slider Mimic. Those are the three mini bosses in here. I need to kill the Slider itself. My recommendation on this dungeon, having played around with it a little bit here and a little bit in my test world, is that you come here prepared to stay the duration. That might mean that you have an ender chest that's equipped with items that you need, that's resupplied from your AE system in the real world, or however, or in the overworld, somehow however you're doing it. Just make sure you've got the torches you need, whatever. I don't actually need any torches. This armor that I'm wearing has a night vision buff, so I think this is probably the only torch in this whole area of the dungeon. So it can only be killed with a pickaxe. And here's what I know will work. I know this VCO pickaxe will work. It has 12 attack damage. It's pretty good. I tried it out on my test world, and this one does work very nicely. It takes a while to kill him with only 12 attack damage on it, compared to, let's say, this bow, which is much better. It's got 124 hearts of damage. Nonetheless, this will kill him. The problem is really dodging the mob, and I'll talk about that strategy just a little bit. Now, I have a cow that produces crystal that's an extra planets material. You can make a sword with that that does, or a pickaxe with that does 14 attack damage. I have not tried this one. I may try it. We'll see. It might work. The thing I'm really hoping will work is this Eviscerator. The Eviscerator does 26 attack damage, so that would actually help kill this mob pretty quickly. I will go ahead and say I'm not very coordinated at these sorts of attacks. I know exactly the strategy you need to avoid taking damage from him, and I take it anyway. So he's not going to wake up until we hit him with a pickaxe. So let's go in here. This is the mob himself, the Slider. As soon as you hit him with a pickaxe, he wakes up. Now, the strategy here is based on his movement. You hit him with the pickaxe, and as you do, he will move around the room, always in a direction that is toward you. However, he can't necessarily move directly toward you. He can only move in directions that are the same orientation as the wall. I could describe it mathematically. I'll try to avoid doing that, but he can only move in basically straight lines with respect to the walls, not diagonals. So if you are located where I am right now, it will actually take him 3 moves to get to you. He might move straight up, then he might move over this way, and then he'll move into you if you stay still. The point is to stay on his corners or his edges and away from the faces, the flat sides. And if you do that, you can mostly avoid the damage, because the way he damages you is he just moves on top of you, and you take damage when that happens. That's really all there is to it. Just keep moving around and try to stay on his corners and away from the mob himself, and you should manage it just fine. I still kind of recommend coming in here with some pretty good equipment because it's just my experience that this is a tough mob. It may just be me though, because like I say, I'm not really very good at avoiding his attacks. So I'm going to try the Eviscerator. If it works, or if it doesn't work, then I'll try the Crystal Pickaxe, and if that doesn't work, then I'll just stick with the Zavicio Pickaxe that I know works. Make sure before you come here that you have a pickaxe that you can kill him with. Don't come here, and I can tell you that the Tinker's ones don't work. Not that you would want it to anyway. This has 3 attack damage on it. It's a great pickaxe, but it's a lousy weapon. So let's go ahead and get started on here. I don't recall if the doors seal back up or not. It doesn't matter. You need to stay in here to do the fight. He drops a few things that are not of any real interest at this level in the game, but I guess if you were playing just Ether, it might actually be some nice items. So let's see what happens if I hit him with the Eviscerator. If he wakes up, then I'll stick with the Eviscerator until it becomes discharged anyway. And it worked. Okay, so that was actually pretty easy. The Eviscerator is a very good weapon for killing him with. Let's run around and see if I can pick up all these coins. Quite a few of them here. What all did we get? We got Hammer of Notch. Ability Area of Effect Wave. I don't know what that does. It's got 6 attack damage, 1000 durability. We got Phoenix Boots with fire resistance. Valkyrie Boots grows wings. And a bunch of carved stone. So that was his loot. And now I've got all this. Let's claim the reward. Jukebox and Titan. How exciting. Okay, now since I finished this dungeon, let me just go ahead and mention I'm actually not going to leave by the mechanism that I find kills me at least part of the time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put down a teleport plate and a tesseract. There are 2 reasons for that. One of them is that I can leave safely. The other one is actually that I would like to come back here at some point because there is a quest to completely mine out an ether dungeon. Every block that you can remove, the quest is to remove it. So I'd like to be able to return here to one that's already clear where I don't have to defeat the bosses and get rid of the guy again. And I'd like to be able to enter and leave safely. I don't recommend using this approach for entering and leaving this dungeon before you have killed the slider, because I think if you leave here and come back in by what could I guess be considered sort of a cheat mechanism, it will set the boss counter in such a way that you might not be able to do it. That is what I found when I was working with it on my test server. So I need my multimeter here, and I will just set this to base. And oh, I need to name this one. Let's name it Sliders Labyrinth, and set it to base as its destination, and let's go. It should send me off to my base pretty soon. Oh, I need to give it power. I didn't configure the Tesseract. Oh, I screwed up. This is a Tesseract frame. I can't do anything with that. Do I have any other source of power on me? I don't. So I'm going to have to risk the door. Let's do that. And hopefully I get out of here in one piece. Oh, I hate those things. It's probably easier to get out of here without flying. Okay. Wish me luck, I guess. Made it. I've been jammed up in there before, and that is just unpleasant. So I'll see you back at the base. Okay, I'm back at the base, and you're probably wondering what else I'm going to do today. And the answer is I want to get a little more done on some of these, just get them all hammered out. And I noticed in going through this that of all of the chapters that I have unlocked, one that I have done absolutely nothing on is Iota, which is big reactors and galactic craft. Now galactic craft, that piece is still locked, and I'm not sure what I need to unlock it. Probably some piece of machinery in one of the other chapters that I don't have yet. But I do know why I hadn't done the minimum reactor one here, and that was because I was missing some of the components. The reactor controller requires demon steel of the third magnitude, and the yellorium fuel rod requires HDPE sheets. I have both of those now. So let's look at the recipes here because I've already got them all set up in the machine. Yellorium and uranium just come from mining and smelting. The reactor controller uses a reactor casing in the middle, and if we drill down to the casing we can see that it's a mix of graphite and steel around uranium or yellorium. Graphite is just gotten by smelting either coal or charcoal. Either one. Doesn't make any difference what you do it with. So that gets you the reactor casing, and with the reactor controller you're going to need the casing, some heavy engineering blocks from immersive engineering, some ultimate control circuits from mechanism, and of course that demon steel. For the access port, it's just a piston, a chest, and 4 reactor casing. I want to say that this is probably the default recipe for the reactor port. The power tap, reactor casings, and redstone, I think that's probably the default recipe for the power tap. The yellorium fuel rod is actually, I think this is all the default recipe except for the HDPE sheet for mechanism in the middle. I've already shown you the machine that I set that up that involves all of the gas and liquid processing. Essentially, when you run through that whole process, you're converting water, power, and some sort of organic material into these HDPE sheets. I used rotten flesh, I believe. And then the control rod, that is reactor casing, graphite, redstone, yellorium. This is probably the default recipe for the control rod. And of course I've already shown you the casing. So let's go in here and make these things. I need, for this minimum setup, which is just going to make a 3x3x3 reactor, I'm going to need 1 fuel rod, and I'm going to need 1 port. Let's see, right here. This is a detect quest, by the way. I already verified it, so you don't necessarily need to craft them all in the grid by hand. So I need, that was the access port, so I need the power tap. We got one of those. And I need 1 control rod. Right there. And I need 1 controller. And it didn't take a long time to go and make all the demon steel because I had already pre-made the demon steel and it was sitting in the system. Then I need 22 reactor casings. There's 3, so I need 19 more. It made 20, and that's fine. Okay, so it wants me to have a stack of yellorium. I don't have to craft that because it's in the system. I've got over 4,000 of them there. One of the things about this is actually this generates a huge amount of power, but it's also extremely cheap to run in this particular mod pack because yellorium has EMC. So you can easily just make enormous amounts of power just from EMC. So a cobble gen would easily run this thing. Now a huge one, that's a different story, especially if you don't keep the control rods most of the way in. Normally the way that big reactors works is the reactors are most efficient when they're running cool. So if it's passively cooled, which is what we're building here, then you don't want to use, you want it to be mostly tamped down to get it at its most efficient. If you want more power, of course, you have to take and run it a little hotter. So I'm going to set this up down here. I'm not going to really do much with it today, but I am going to go ahead and build it on camera. So in order to do this, I'm going to have to be careful about my lights because I think I want to start it, just right here. So we're going to build the bottom out of this casing. There is reactor glass that you can use everywhere except on the edges. This particular one in the quest book did not call for the reactor glass. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and finish a frame using all of that. Now, some of these we have some flexibility where we put them. The fuel rod has to go in the center. And in this particular case, this cube is just 3 by 3 by 3, so the center is 1 by 1 by 1, so we only have spot for one fuel rod, and we don't have to worry about moderator or anything like that. In bigger reactors than this one, we'll have to deal with that. When I find that I need the power, I will do that. I actually have not found that I need the power over here. Both of these diesel engines are still running, and I'm running a surplus of 111,000 RF per tick. So we're going to put the controller in one of these gaps on the side, and we'll put an access port in another one. And then we need the power tap in one of the others. So the one on the back is empty, and we don't have anything to put in it. We're going to put just a spare piece of casing in there and complete that wall. And then last, each column of Eulorium fuel rods in the reactor, and they are arranged in columns that run all the way from the top to the bottom of the reactor. Each one of them has to be topped with a control rod. We put that in there, and it just formed up the multi-block right there. We can come over here and we can see that it's offline, and we could activate and deactivate it. So we've got a place here to show how much fuel it's got, what the heating and the casing and the core are. You don't need to worry too much about the distinction between casing and core on a passive reactor. Just know that the cooler it is, particularly the cooler the core is, the more efficiently it runs. These will be very similar in a passively cooled reactor. And then there's an energy buffer that says how much energy it's got stored. And fuel reactivity is a measure of efficiency. The fuel burn-up rate, you want to know how much you're burning per cycle. Let's just toss this whole stack of Eulorium in here, and it will eat all that it can hold, which is 4. And if we turn it on, we can see how much power it's going to output. So just in this default configuration, this reactor is gradually heating up. It's going to get hotter than I would consider ideal, but it's going to produce, it looks like, a little over 3,000 RF per tick in this state. Now when it gets a little hotter, maybe it will do it's actually doing less as it gets hotter. Let's go and tamp it down. If we come up here to the top on the reactor control rod, this shows how much the rod is inserted, and right now it's not inserted at all, so it says insertion 0. If I increase the insertion, let's just increase it to 90%. You can give this a name. The name is used if you're trying to control it using like a computer from Computercraft or something of that nature. You won't use it if you're just manually controlling it, but you can still give it a name if you want. So we've got it set to 90. If we do that, it's going to produce less power. It's down to 301 RF per tick, but the efficiency on the fuel is actually about 10 times what it was showing before. So it's using 0.036 millibuckets per tick. We've got 100% on the reactivity. It's gradually filling up. Let me come down here and we'll withdraw it again and see what happens. So now it's using around 10 times as much fuel. It's not quite generating 10 times as much power. One of the things that's going on here is that it is gradually replacing the fuel with waste. The blue is waste, which is cyanite. If we come over here to this, can we tell it to eject waste? Well, it's in inlet mode. I guess the reason it's not ejecting it is because it only held 4 ingots of that to begin with. So until it's 25% depleted, it's not going to have an ingot of waste show up that it can remove. So that is the smallest big reactor. Let me go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and set this back to 90, but it's kind of pointless to do that because I'm going to turn it off because I don't want to use it right now. I will do something with it in a little bit. Between episodes, I'll probably hook it up to the system so that it can be automated a little better and use it a little bit. I've built it, I might as well use it, but this reactor is too small to make any big difference. Eventually we'll build a big reactor. There's a quest in the book to build one that is maximum size. Alright, so that finished this quest. Well, it sort of finished it. It didn't detect that I had my Eulorium. Let me go back and pull some more out. Now it did. Essence bricks. Okay, so since we finished that, we now have cyanite. As soon as we've got a full stack of those ingots, this quest will be finished. But I have to run it for quite a while in order to get all of that, especially such a small reactor. Steam processing causes a big reactor become actively cooled and ready to supply steam for the turbine. So this is the reactor coolant port. Let's see if I can make one of those. I'm not going to install it. I'll have to come over here to do that, won't I? So this doesn't look like too bad a recipe. It doesn't have any special components. I am missing a piston here. Let's just have a piston get crafted. We'll put it there. We'll save the recipe off. And I guess I should check, is this a crafting or a detection? It's a crafting, so I'm going to have to make one of these, which I think means I'm going to need more casings, because I've only got one. Just make a bunch of them, because I will ultimately have to have a bunch of them. They do have EMC, though, so that is a little bit handy. The one that really interests me on does it have EMC is the fuel rod. It does. So having actually made one HDPE sheet, for this purpose at least, I don't need to have any more of them because I can just make fuel rods using EMC. Okay, so I just crafted one of these. And more tunes. Okay. The other thing I really want to look at today is the Gamma chapter, because I'm going to want to start doing some quarrying. I'm on episode 33 here, and I have not set up a quarry anywhere. And what I want to do is I want to go ahead and quest this chain that goes through the Ender Quarry, and I also want to go ahead and do the quest for the Deep Dark. Before I do that, though, also on this page in the Dire Crafting table, I have essentially set up the recipe for the angel ring. So let's put that in the middle, and this is the angel ring with dragon wings. And we can finish that quest right there. And when we finished it, all the other angel ring quest options disappeared, so you only have to make the one angel ring. Let's see what we got in the quest bag. Fleeting stone, more junk. Yeah, a lot of these things are pretty junky at this, especially at this point in the game. So, but I'll need to go ahead and equip that, and it does show angel wings or dragon wings in my portrait there. There we go. All right. So the endo pump is the next one. This is actually the endothermic pump. And I think all of this stuff is set up in the system, but it may take me a minute to do it. Let's see. This is actually a detection, so it doesn't care about crafting it specifically. Let's see. It's interesting, one of the differences between these tables is this table you can still type down here in the bottom to search in NEI. This table, however, you can't. Okay, so we need some more of this ender-infused obsidian. And we're going to need a bucket of lava. What goes on the bottom? An iron pickaxe. Yeah, I would have one of those, but I think that's a loot bag item, and I just have tons of them. So iron pickaxe will make one of those. And then I'm going to have to run downstairs and get a bucket of lava because I don't have any in the system. Haven't been storing it that way. But where I'm generating power, I have a bunch of it here in a bedrockium barrel. Okay, so we'll put that there. One endothermic pump. And I probably should have just gone ahead and set up the recipe for that because I think I need at least one and maybe two for the next one, which is the Ender Quarry. Amulet of Growth. So this requires, oh, this is an assembly table recipe. That's interesting. It requires 2 buildcraft quarries. An ender-infused obsidian, diamond chipset, endothermic pump, diamond etched computational matrix, and magical wood. Some of these things I have set up in the system already, some of them I don't. Let me go ahead and get all that stuff put together, and I will see you at the assembly table when I have it. Okay, I'm not actually going to start back at the assembly table. I'm going to start at the QED because I've got to make 2 of the Buildcraft quarries, and I found that Buildcraft quarries are rather more complex and different than I expected. They're made in the QED. They use completely different kinds of gears. The sort of general form of the recipe is the same as the default in Buildcraft, but instead of iron gears it's using ferrous, and instead of gold gears it's using mana and fuse, and instead of diamond gears it's using lumium gears, and instead of a diamond pickaxe it's using a diamond paxel, and instead of a piece of redstone it's using a diamond chip. So it's changed quite a bit from the default, and it's also in the QED. Now I've got to have two of them. So let me load up my QED with all of these materials that I gathered, and we'll get that going. There is actually a quest specifically to use a Buildcraft quarry somewhere. Not really a quest, an achievement in the simple achievement books. I haven't looked at exactly where it is, but I'll have to. I think it's in an RF Tools dimension. This is not my preferred quarry, although I remember loving how that thing worked back in the early days of Minecraft. So let's go to the assembly table now and put all this stuff together. So if we put all of these items in here, it should show a recipe for an ender quarry. So it's firing up, and we need, looks like 6 million RF, so it's going to be a little while. I'll cut and I'll be back when it's ready to finish. Okay, it looks like we're getting pretty close here. One of the things that we're also going to need is ender markers. You have to specify some way to set up the boundary of the area you want to quarry out, and I prefer to use ender markers. You can also use fences if you want to manually build fences over a large distance. Um, just not my preference because it involves a lot of extra placing of fences as opposed to placing just 3 markers. So let's make our ender markers here. We're going to need, let's make 5 of them. So I'm going to need, well, we'll make 6. Okay, and I need eyes of ender. And those are just made in the QED, and I'm pretty sure the default recipe is in here, like that. Except that apparently either it's not the default recipe or I got it wrong. Ender marker. It just wants an ender pearl on top. So we'll put this over here, and that'll get going. While that's going, let's take and claim the reward. It's a greater bag, alchemical coin. Okay, and I'm not going to quarry anything right now, but I will go ahead and just sort of illustrate how we do this. And if we set this up like this, you can see particles going through here, and we'd have to have a power source on the quarry, but if we were to click on the quarry while it's got those particles flying around like that, it would set out that tiny little area as the boundary of the area to be quarried. If you've never used one, and I imagine most people have used one of these, but if you've never used one of these, you really should give it a try sometime. It's a real treat, so to speak. Okay, just a few more things to do here. I want to go ahead and get the upgrades. The quarry world hole upgrade causes the quarry not to replace blocks with dirt instead, which is the default action. Normally when it digs up a block, it replaces it with dirt. The world hole upgrade tells it not to do that, so it leaves a big giant hole in the world like a Buildcraft quarry, and sometimes that's what you want, so it's nice that it provides that upgrade that allows that functionality. Silk Touch upgrade is nice. I may not have what I need for some of these. It causes it to Silk Touch everything when it digs it up. Fortune 3 upgrade. I usually prefer to use the Silk Touch upgrade rather than the Fortune one, but the Fortune one obviously will cause it to go ahead and break the blocks, but you'll get more materials back as a result of it breaking them. And then the Quarry Speed upgrade. The first 2 of them actually work very nicely for speeding up your quarry. The third one works so well that you may have difficulty keeping your processing going. So you may end up using your AE system as a buffer to hold all of the products of the quarry so that you can have time to get them all processed, because it is extremely fast with the third speed upgrade. Of course, it also drinks down energy like nobody's business when you have that. So those are some things to keep in mind. Before I build these, let me go back to the other one that I want to make sure that I get done here, which is the portal to the deep dark. And the portal to the deep dark, first of all, it's going to give us a couple of great rewards. It's going to give us a Sojourner Staff and a Lantern of Paranoia. These two items together, and you do have to use them together in order to get this functionality to work, will take and place torches automatically in your vicinity wherever it's dark. So it's really nice to have, let's say if you're digging a long tunnel or something like that, you don't have to stop periodically and drop torches down. If you are just roaming around in some area that's not lit, then it will distribute torches. It's actually the lantern that places the torches. The Sojourner Staff holds the torches while they are, it's a big buffer for torches. I want to say it can hold something like 15,000 or something like that. Maybe only 1,500, but it's an enormous number of torches. And so it doesn't take up inventory. So the lantern draws from the staff in order to place it. You can also just right-click in the world with the staff in order to place a torch. Anyway, getting back to the portal to the deep dark, unstable ingots and septuple and octuple compressed cobblestone. I have gone ahead and if we look at my compressed cobblestone on the network, on my AE system rather, then the most compressed that I'm normally storing here is quintuple, but I have set up recipes for sextuple, septuple, and octuple, so I can go ahead and do that. Let's make one octuple, and it's going to draw a lot of cobblestone to do that. But it's starting from quintuple, so it shouldn't be too bad. I can also go ahead and make, that's not the one I want, the septuple. I need 4 of those. So we're going to put that one in the middle and these 4 on the corners. And I don't know why I'm setting it up in here because I'm definitely not going to be making a bunch of these. And then I needed unstable ingots. And it looks like I only have 3. So I need to go ahead and make one more. Let's come over to this other table and use my partially used division sigil. And I'll need a gold nugget on the top and a diamond on the bottom. And we'll just make several of those. Okay, we've used up that division sigil, so we're good there. So coming back over here, well, I don't really need to because it finished. It did not recognize that I had, I guess it's just because I put septuple in the middle. These are so dark it's very hard to tell the difference between them. Okay, so there's our portal to the deep dark, which means we have opened up a new dimension for mining. Alright. So I'm going to put all this stuff away for the moment, including the lantern, but you'll notice it says places torches in unlit areas automatically. Shift right click to activate, so you do have to do that to activate it, and you can do that again to deactivate it. Then the staff consumes torches, can place them long distance but costs extra, and shift right click to toggle auto absorb. I don't know if I've got any torches around. No, I can make some. Okay, so if I do that, then it will soak up all these torches. And hovering over it, holding shift, it says contents torch 64. And if I were to go and activate the lantern now, it would place torches if there were any dark areas around. There aren't, so it's not going to do anything. But that is how that works. So I'll put these away. Now, the last thing I want to work on today in terms of questing is I do want to get these quarry upgrades. However, some of them require, this one isn't too bad, but this one I think requires a silk touch pickaxe. And these, the fortune one requires fortune pickaxes, and the speed one requires efficiency pickaxes. I'm going to have to make and enchant all these pickaxes, so I'm going to go ahead and cut and make them so I will have them on hand, and I'll get all these materials ready before doing these. The way to get the enchantments on these, I am just going to use either, and it may depend a little bit on which enchantment it is, I will use either the Ender IO Enchanter, or I will use Magical Crops crafting to make the books. I know the efficiency ones I have the materials to make the books, and that's good because you've got to go all the way up to efficiency 5 on it. I don't know if I've got the silk touch that way, but I'll find out. I'll get all these things ready, and I'll be back after that. Okay, I'm back, and I have a lot of enchanted pickaxes. So the pickaxes that these use can get a little bit confusing because they're different kinds and different levels of enchantments, and a couple of them work just a little bit differently. Let's take a look at the Silk Touch one. The Silk Touch one is the simplest case. There's only one level of it. It requires a golden pickaxe with Silk Touch 1 on it. Pretty simple. The Fortune one, we're being asked to make Fortune 3, which is the highest tier one. This requires the Fortune 2 upgrade, which in turn requires the Fortune 1 upgrade. So, Fortune 2 upgrade. Can I get it right? Fortune 2 upgrade, Fortune 1 upgrade. Okay. And if we look at these specifically, the Fortune 1 upgrade wants an iron pickaxe with Fortune level 1. The Tier 2 one wants a golden pickaxe with Fortune level 1. And the Fortune 3 one wants 2 diamond pickaxes, each with Fortune level 1. So the material that's being used in the pickaxes goes up from iron to gold to diamond, but the enchantment remains Fortune 1 through the whole process. That is different from the speed one. Now the speed one is going to require the speed 2 for the speed 3, and it's going to require the speed 1 to make the speed 2. And if we drill down through those, the speed 1 wants a diamond pickaxe, so it's already the highest level of material, with efficiency 1. The speed 2 wants a diamond pickaxe again, this time with efficiency 3, and the tier 3 one wants diamond pickaxes again, but this time with efficiency 5, and there are 2 of them. So let's go ahead and start on some of these. Let me verify first I've got some of these. I bet I don't have all these upgrades that I need. I may have forgotten to get those. Let's go and see what we got here. Upgrade. I've only got one of these stack upgrades. I probably have enough of those though. Let me go through and make sure I have the speed upgrades and so on, and I'll be back. Okay, back, and I think I have all the stuff. The first step to making all of these is to make the Ender Quarry base that goes, Ender Quarry upgrade base. It's made in the QED. This is the default recipe. It's burnt quartz surrounded by Ender infused obsidian. And I'm going to make 5 of them. We're actually only making 4 upgrades for the quest, but there's another one that's worth mentioning, and I'm going to make it too because I like to use it. So we've got the upgrade quest, or the upgrade base. I think the rest of these are just made in a regular crafting table, so we're good there. Let's make the world hull upgrade first. It wants a trash can and some quartz. So quartz, and I think it wanted blocks of it. It wanted a trash can and it didn't care which one. So I can just take either one of these trash cans. Let's use the fluid one. There we go. So there's our Ender Quarry World Hull upgrade, and it has counted it. So next is the Silk Touch one. The Silk Touch one just uses redstone on the sides and this golden pickaxe on the top. So there and there and there. Golden pickaxe with Silk Touch 1. It does have to have the precise enchantment on it. So that takes care of that one. Next, let's look at Fortune 1. It wants redstone on the sides again, Ender Quarry upgrade base in the middle, and the iron pickaxe with Fortune 1 on top. That's this one. Now, to make the next tier, we need to put this back in here, and we'll put the gold pickaxe with Fortune 1 on top. So there's the Fortune 2 upgrade. And then to get the third one, I need the 2 diamond pickaxes here and here. And they've got Fortune 1 on them, so we'll get that. And this will be the one that I really probably never use. And then last, the Ender Quarry Speed 3 upgrade. This one is not going to use redstone. It's going to use these things on the side for the first and second tiers anyway. So we're going to go ahead and put efficiency 1 on the top here. We get the first one out. Efficiency 3 on the top to get the next one out. And then we have to get rid of these things and replace it with these stack upgrades. And then we're going to need 2 efficiency 5 diamond pickaxes to go there. Now, the one that is not in the quest is this one over here, the Ender Quarry pump upgrade. And what this tells the Ender Quarry to do, normally the Ender Quarry completely ignores all fluids. So if there's some lava underground, it mines underneath it, it mines above it, it just skips it. If there's water, it mines above it, beneath it, it skips it. What this will cause it to do is to pump fluids. If every time it runs into a fluid block, it basically makes that block disappear and it outputs fluid. So if you use this block, in order to avoid having the quarry get jammed, you do need to go and have some means of handling the fluids that it's produced. But this is actually pretty convenient if you are, let's say, quarrying an oil field. It means you can recover all the oil. If you are quarrying in the nether, you can recover all of the lava. Other sorts of fluids you might get, sewage and sludge are pretty common in lakes. If you set up an RF tools dimension, you might make lakes or seas out of a particular fluid and you would like to recover that. This actually does not replace the fluid with dirt or stone, I don't believe. So you can actually get some lagginess with this. If you want to be sure that does not happen, then do go ahead and use the pump instead. But if you use this otherwise, it's very convenient just for quarrying up underground fluids. So let's go ahead and make it. We need a bucket and some redstone. Just like that. And that's our final upgrade. So with all of that done, let's claim the reward. And the reward bag is bedrock, which is listed as an EMC reward because it has 8 million EMC. Okay. That is all I think I really wanted to get done today. Let's take a look here. So we've completed this quarry line here. We've completed the dragon wings. Earlier in the episode, we finished the thing in Slider's Labyrinth, and so we're making good progress there. There is one other quest I think I can do, and that is I now have enough neutronium for 13 ingots. So let's pull 9 of the nuggets and come over here and craft an ingot by hand. Just toss the other one back in there. So there we have an ingot crafted by hand, and that should finish on Mu this quest, the neutronium ingot. So we'll get that one out of the way. Got some jeweled apples. And put that back in there. And part of the reason I have as much neutronium as I do is because if we come down here and look at the ore processing level where I set up all of those, I don't see it from here. Must be looking, here we go. I made a few more neutron collectors. There are 31 of them now, so it is humming along producing neutronium at a slow but very noticeable rate. And I guess I may eventually make some more of them, but for now I think that will do. That'll get us into some of these early quests and get them done in some reasonable amount of time while I work on other things. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up today's episode. If you enjoyed the episode, please feel free to like, subscribe, comment, or share. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next episode.